Hello. Okay, I think I got it. All right. Hi, thank you for joining. We're going to be talking with OUSD school district directors. Hold on, I'm getting a message from Mike Hutchinson, who's going to be joining us. Why is this not working? Okay, hold on. Oh, this isn't working. Hold on a second, y'all. Need to position myself differently. So Mike Hutchinson is going to be joining us, as well as VanCedric, School Board of Supervisors Director VanCedric, who just joined us. So let me invite them up. And we're going to wait for Mike Hutchinson. Invite Van up. Hopefully he got the invitation. So Van, all you have to do is accept the invitation. There you go. Hey Van. Can you hear me all right?
Let's see if I can get this light right. Okay, I have to get off the light a little bit.
But this...
Excellent.
Thanks for coming on. Mike looks like he's having a little trouble getting on. So once he joins, we'll invite him up. But I thought I would just give folks a little, like, where are we at with everything in the world, and where are we at with welcoming folks, and also we won really big the city budget, so really excited about that, and really wanting to just say thank you. Oh, here comes Mike.
That's awesome.
Here he goes. So we will be having, because there's so many things, right? Because OUSD and the city and Alameda County are all passing their budget at the same time, all by June 30th. So there's so many things going on, and we want to take a good deep dive into the win that we had with the city budget. So invited Kat Brooks from APTP and Justice Teams to come on tomorrow to talk a little bit more in depth to that about the city budget, but invited you and Mike Hutchinson to join us today. Mike, you might need to, I'm going to send the request one more time, and what you'll do is just accept the request. Hopefully it's working for you. But while we're waiting for Mike to join, we call this Monday Meals because we want to invite people to, we don't do enough to really care for ourselves, right? And that we know that oftentimes we don't eat lunch. So I want to make sure that my folks are eating.
Right.
Oh, and I can feel you sweating, VanCedric. You're like, oh no, I got to talk about what I'm going to be eating. Let me tell you, I'm eating a banana and some nuts.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me what you're having for lunch and how you're
Yeah,
nourishing yourself, because that's what Monday Meals is. It's like we're nourishing our brains, we're nourishing our souls on
yeah,
how things are and where we're at in this city. Um,
yeah.
but so tell me, what are you doing? Like, how are you nourishing yourself? How are you feeding yourself?
Yeah, thank you. We're in this decompression mode now that summer has started. All my educator friends are just off traveling, hiking, just trying to, yeah, like not think about the world right now, right? And so myself, I'm still in Oakland. I've been doing lots of walks around the Lake Merritt. And so that's where I've been like really taking care of myself this last week. Been doing lots of walks. Right now, right now I have some watermelon from Sprouts and some berries, strawberries that I'm eating for lunch. That's kind of that tied me on through. I'll probably have a little halibut fish later on this afternoon.
Yummy.
Yeah. So I'm really excited. Some fish tacos. So um, that's kind of what I'll do in a little later afternoon. But usually, right now, my metabolism's running since I'm working out. So
Mm-hmm.
I usually fresh fruit at lunch for sure.
Nice, nice. That sounds great. I'm so glad to hear that you're eating healthy and that you're actually getting outside. So, welcome, Mike Hutchinson. How are you?
Uh, Made it. Just a little
You're
technical
here, you're
difficulty
here.
here.
We got it. Um, so we were just checking in with Monday Meals, like what do we do? This is about like nourishing our brains, our minds, our hearts, our souls, and our bodies as well. So want to make sure that you're having lunch. Want to see what you're doing to like take care of yourself, and also what are you having for lunch today?
Well, I left it in the other room also. I was same thing, just eating a bowl of fruit today. I kind of space it out a little bit, and then I'm still working on my morning coffee. So I'm a little off on my meals so far today. Got a little start for Monday. Um, and then actually after working on school sites for so many years, kind of my pattern, especially for lunchtime, is always kind of random. So I am not the best on eating lunch after being on school sites for so many years. So usually lunchtime around 3 in the afternoon, I've just been conditioned. That's kind of more my lunchtime than the traditional 12
Got
o'clock
it,
when I'm
got it. So
usually on duty.
this is all about your head. This is all about your heart today. Where you at? So we didn't do like a full introduction of everybody yet. My name is Liz. Thank you for joining. The folks who are joining, I'm Liz. I'm the executive director of Oakland Rising. Thank you for joining our Monday meals. And I'll let the folks who are on the call with me introduce themselves. But I'm really proud to invite them today to talk about the work that they're doing on our OUSD School Board. So let's go ahead and start with VanCedric because he joined on first.
All right, yo, what's up, brother Mike? How you doing, man? Shout outs to you. Much love, always. Same to you, Liz. Thank you for having me. It is a pleasure to be here to share some time with you. And whenever you need me, just give me a call. I am VanCedric Williams, OUSD District 3, West Oakland, west of Lake Merritt, uptown, all the way through. Up to the 580. So just represent really hard, really want to make sure I reach out to my folks. I am an educator, been an educator for the last 20 years. I've been doing this work and really, really fortunate to engage community members throughout. So That's really about me. I'm a simple guy. I don't have a list of jobs going on. I just do the work, just grind every day to make sure that folks know that we're in to win this game. So that's VanCedric Williams.
Thank you. Thank you. Take it away, Mike.
Uh, Mike Hutchinson, now happily newly elected to the Oakland School Board in District 5. And first, so I don't forget, and we just launching, thank you, Liz and Oakland Rising for all the support over the last year. This is great seeing the community coming together like this. And now we have a growing number of real victories to build off of. So thank you for all the work. But I'm born and raised here in Oakland. Both of my parents were educators here in Oakland. And just kind of my quick stories, in 2012, the two schools I was working at, Maxwell Park Elementary and Santa Fe Elementary, were both closed. And that kind of shifted me into more organizing work to fight against the closures and what was happening, which led to a 9-year battle. And now I'm here in the school board. So I'm real excited about, I might have to switch to a hotspot. I'm real excited about the opportunity we really have now in Oakland to really chart a new direction after so many years of just grinding at it. And again, thank you for this opportunity to kind of give a snapshot of kind of what's happened, where we're going. And like VanCedric said, I'm all about the grind also. So this is the daily routine where we just hit it every day.
Yeah, and we're hustling, right? Like, and I want to just lift up, when we started the Monday meals, where we started with actually was the conversation around the Black reparations and the resolution that passed all but one of the demands on there. So I know that you two were really critical in really making sure that that got pushed through, working with community on that. And so, when Oakland Rising Action, to be on the safe side, when Oakland Rising Action really endorsed the both of you, we knew that that's what we were endorsing, right? Whereas folks who were going to step into the arena and really push hard for these types of changes. And so, going off of that win, I wonder how that's playing into this budget fight, because without the budget, that implementation is a different story, right? The implementation of the Black reparations resolution. And I wonder what are the parts of the budget that you want folks to know about? I know that there's, some things about balancing the budget, which has always been an issue with OUSD. I know there's the strategic plan. I know that there's some stuff around public lands, that they're leasing and what that looks like. And so maybe if Mike, you might want to lead us off with like some of those pieces around what are the top line things that folks need to know right now about the budget that needs to pass by Wednesday.
Well, so unfortunately, it's not a simple question, and especially this year, since we are in the process of receiving hopefully a total of around $300 million in one-time COVID relief dollars. There's even more kind of unknowns and moving targets thrown into the mix. And so as a school district, we are required by law to approve our yearly budget by the end of June, before July 1st. And so that's what we're going to be doing on Wednesday. But before we even talk about what's in this budget, it's really important that the community knows that there's going to be amendments to this budget as we address more of these one-time dollars in August and September. And so we are not talking about budgeting all of the COVID relief dollars right now. There is still, according to what we'll be approving on Wednesday, there is still over $200 million in COVID relief dollars to be budgeted going forward. So I just want So it gets even more confusing. And then if you look at the budget numbers, some of these one-time dollars have kind of been loaded into the budget and some of it isn't there. So there's just these different
I see.
fluctuations
Is
when you
that
see the
because of the
numbers.
transparency issue, or is this just the way that the function of the budgeting right now? Okay.
Both. And really this has been an ongoing
Mm-hmm.
issue in OUSD. But we have now a chief business officer who's been in the district
Okay.
for a little over a year. And I brought real
That's
changes to a
great.
lot of this process. So yes, but I think she is still in the process of kind of unwinding
Mm,
what was here before. But so we don't have a good history to build off of. And then the other thing is we haven't done any community engagements really. We
mm,
haven't for the last few years. And then this, because of COVID relief, or because of COVID, because of the virus, it's been even harder to bring people together to
mm.
meet together. So we have built-in problems. The good news is there is not going to be any cuts
Great.
for next year. Whatever in funding there are, those holes will be filled with the COVID relief dollars. It looks like there is starting to be some spending of these relief dollars, hopefully in staffing up in new programs. And it's budgeted in there. There's about, depending on how you look at it, there's tens of millions of extra dollars budgeted out of
Mm-hmm.
COVID relief dollars. But some of this is still going to be kind of worked out, and we'll see what happens because
Mm-hmm.
any increased spending, it
Mm-hmm.
requires staffing up to provide services, and we are just at the
Got
very
it.
beginning of that. So at least I sum it up as the good news, like
Bless
Yeah.
you. I don't know. I
there
cough weird.
there is
Oh, you're
money
okay. Mm.
there is money there, um, and I think we have money to go after going forward. But it's still a very, very chaotic process
Mm.
because of all the
Got it.
moving
Got it. I
targets.
really appreciate you saying that because I think I think that a lot of folks don't didn't I didn't I think one of the reasons why I didn't really wasn't following the OUSD budget is because of the lack of community engagement. Like we haven't been seeing that piece, and I think that's a critical point to being able for you all to like engage with families and community to talk about what their priorities are in that budget. Did you want to add anything, Van, about where you're seeing things are and what are some of those top lines that you'd like to move forward on this budget?
Yeah, yeah. Mike has definitely summed it up pretty well. I think that both of us are really community-driven individuals, so
Mm-hmm.
we really are valuing having voice to this process. And I think what demands have been is how do we make this a community process? It has been kind of a back and forth because that's not the practice that OUSD, our
Mm,
district, has had before, right? To really be transparent and have
right.
some community conversations. And so I think that being that we are both actually are on the Budget and Finance Committee, it's really going to be driving some
Mm,
deeper questions in regards to how we're going to be more transparent and how we're going to engage community input. That's one. Second thing, I just want to go back to the reparations for Black students.
mm,
What the resolution really showed us is that um, Oakland Unified was not ready initially to support our Black students.
right.
And more, it's like in addition, it's not just our Black students, but it's all of our BIPOC students,
Mm,
right? You have to really be intentional. You have to be intentional in supporting the marginalized communities that need additional assistance.
that's
And
right.
our district has been really reluctant and very inflexible in regards to supporting. The choice that the district has made is to close schools under the disguise of budgetary solutions. And what we know very clearly, reparations was very clear over the last 18 plus years, we've closed 16 schools, and
So
our budget hasn't changed.
right.
We're still,
We're
you
still in
know,
the
we
same
closed.
position.
Correct. After all the school
Yeah.
closes. And so we have really, that movement from the community to really bring forth the reparations. It took us a couple tries to put forth, but the board of directors finally acquiesced and gave in. And the one thing, like you said, that they didn't give in to is the moratorium on school closures,
Mm,
right? And so now that is trying to recycle that back around with this blueprint to say that they need to close schools to right size, but the past evidence doesn't actually substantiate what their position is. We have not
right.
seen any clear, transparent way of saying school closures save the budget. Our
Right.
budget actually has increased $150 million in the last 5 or 6 years, and we're still having some budget issues. So what Mike is talking about is really crucial, is to bring transparency to this process.
Right.
And two, there are, we have to look at Mike and I. Mike has been really actively engaged longer than myself. I really want to give him that props on that. But what we've been going back and forth with is there a structural issue that is going on with our budget and our schools? The CBO, our chief business officer, as well as board directors, some other board directors, feel that there's a structural issue and they need to right size our district. But what right sizing mean again is continual closing the schools that actually need the support. So we're pushing to move our district in a community schools model, community engagement model, to really cut back on this talk of trying to balance the budget on the backs of our Black kids and our BIPOC
Ugh,
kids.
that's it. That's it right there, right? Like you summed it up so well. Like that's what these systems continually force us to do, right? Like on the city side, we get pushed to balance the budget and we continually get policed, right? We continue to have our services cut, and then we're asked to like balance the budget even more on top of that. And we have less services. So it sounds like on OUSD side, what we're seeing is the same pattern. And so for me, what that makes me think is, wow, this neoliberal machine, this system of like how we do business, how we run our governments, and what our governmental priorities are, is really like the moral compass is off, right? We need to be focusing, really focusing on the most vulnerable communities. And then that's where we're going to see the major changes that we need. And I really appreciate you talking about that community engagement. So I wonder what it looks like. What does community engagement look like in OUSD? And what are some of the things you all are fighting for? And then I want to get back to some of the details of the budget, because there's some big stuff, right? Like Oakland Rising is really big on public land for public goods. This is a big priority for us. And we want to make sure that this is something that folks know about. Because so I'll get into that more deeply, but I wanted to hear what you all think. What is like community engagement look like for you, and what are your hopes around the ways in which OUSD can do that, and how they might be able to see that happen through the budget?
Well, one of the things that's been tough this year is VanCedric and I were sworn into the school board in January. We were halfway through school. So for this year, a lot of the issues and kind of the schedule and process was already baked into this year, into the board. So for example, we were halfway through the yearly budget process. So even though VanCedric and I are two of the three
Right.
members of the Budget and Finance Committee. There was only so much we could really change or tweak, especially when it comes to
Right.
process and timeline. So I'm really forward to next year when we're going to be on the
Mm-hmm.
board from the start of the year, so we can reinstitute some of these things from the beginning. But I'm going to be
Mm-hmm.
honest with you and with everyone. This is something we're going to have to figure out together. We have lost the ability to engage as a community with our school district and even with our city. And so this is hopefully something that we as a community will be rebuilding. I think it's my job as a sitting school board member to ensure that there is engagement that's relevant for the community that I represent. I think some of the questions, does this mean that we have committee meetings every night? Or does this mean we have ways for the community to sign off? I think, all of that worked out. The first thing, and I think we are on their way there, is kind of that stated intention. But the other thing I want to be really, really clear about is also when I was sworn into the school board, I knew there were a series of things in the works that I was going to try to do my best to stop. Stopped most of those from even coming for a vote before the school board this year. But at this last meeting on Wednesday, there's a couple of things that have slipped through. So to reference public land for public good, there are two 75-year leases for public property that are horrible, horrible deals. That there's just now being public notice that these are happening. They're being sold for pennies. And this is left over from the last 5 years of the blueprint plan, the 7-Eleven committee declaring property surplus. These are properties that the state superintendent and administrator, when they were in charge, closed the schools at these properties, and they've been neglected intentionally for 15 years in order to move them to developers. And they're trying to sell this to us as they're going to provide workforce housing when there is not one guarantee in the lease that requires them to actually provide that housing. So hopefully we can still stop that. We really need community support to weigh in and stop it. And this is like when many in the community went through the battle over the East 12 parcel. We had the whole school district side of properties, like the administration building on 2nd Avenue, all been interconnected. And now as we have a new city council and a new school board, it's time for us to reclaim some of our public resources. And so I just really want to highlight that because that is on the agenda for Wednesday.
Is
for a
that part of
final
the budget,
vote.
or is that just on the agenda
And
separately? Separate.
no, that's on the agenda separately. But what's happened in a larger sense is for years, we've been sold a false narrative of a structural deficit. We do not have a
Right.
structural deficit. We never did. What's happened is as funding from the state has greatly increased by over 50% over the last 7 years, we've actually seen per pupil
Right.
spending go down because of the mis
Right.
internally within OUSD. That's not a deficit. And the books have been cooked intentionally to try to push school closures and the movement
Right.
of our properties for pennies. But everything's changed now with COVID relief dollars, with 300 million one-time dollars. Because no matter what your view of what your view is of the budget, you throw in $300 million on top of a $600 million yearly budget, have the resources to make better decisions going forward. So some of that
Yeah.
past narrative really doesn't matter. This now, so I mentioned before, I'm going to
Yeah.
focus it going forward where you want to hear in 1 minute. One of the documents that we are approving with the budget that we're going to approve on Wednesday states that there is $216.9 million left of the one-time COVID relief dollars.
Wait,
still budgeted.
216.9 million, you said, right? Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
that is what the document. And it a little bit, but it means we got over 200 million in extra one-time dollars still to be budgeted for the next 3 years,
I got
maybe
some
even 3 to
ideas.
5
I want to
years.
spend that.
So why that we need to figure out a way to frame, but that's
Right.
for transformational change. And so what's already been approved in the budget for this next year is more like staffing up and trying to add
Right.
some extra resources and have a recovery year. But we have not yet gotten to the point where how are we going to use this money to bring equity and
Right.
transformational change? And that's going to be the fight. And just to give a little extra segue, hopefully the bigger we can figure out a way to frame this where this doesn't become a competition or a wish list of items. Because what we all really want is more resources going directly to our school
That's right.
sites, to our students, to be influenced, if not directed,
Right.
by the local community. So it becomes a question of how do we frame and capture these dollars and put in the community engagement and controls to really make this happen. And I'm a little worried because we don't have a
Right.
good history that we're building off of. The game now is to make sure we don't
Right.
miss this opportunity that really has
And
arisen
I
through
just want
this
to respond to
pandemic.
that. It's like that a lot of people like to think about OUSD, and thank you again, thank you so much for breaking that down, Mike. Like, I think the clarity by which you're like framing this, I think is really critical for folks to know about. I appreciate that. I appreciate you both for being here to talk about it. But one of the things that we talk about is that a lot of folks like to think of OUSD as a sort of separate entity, and it is, fiscally, OUSD and the city are separated, right? But the impacts of what's happening in our communities cross those boundaries, right? Cross those fiscal budgets. So watching and seeing how, what public land for public good, and that and watching public land just being decimated and deteriorate and then getting sold or going into, like the leasing that is happening of those lands, and how that's connected to charter schools. So gentrification, right? Because I don't see any guarantees in here around it being affordable housing, which we are completely lacking in. We have a gluttony of I think it's 175% over for our market rate housing, which has a very low capacity rate right now. Like, nobody's living in them. So like those connections between what's happening at OUSD and what's happening in terms of the rest of our city in the communities, right? The impact that that's going to have is the equity that I hear you speaking about. It's not just about educational access, but it's also about the economic impact that it will have in our community. And then that we, as poor, immigrant, working class, BIPOC communities, are going to bear the brunt of, and that we carry the burden for that, and that this should no longer happen. Van, I'm wondering if you might be able to jump in here and really talk a little bit about what that means. Like, what's coming up on the agenda in terms of these developers, and what are they getting away with?
Yeah. So, it's crazy because once you really realize the growth of charter schools in OUSD or in Oakland, we come to realize that the leases that many of them have were pretty much pennies on the dollar.
Right.
So we're not generating enough income from the charter leases that have come and taken many of our students. So that's really one. And so we really have to be very cautious as we move forward to really restrict or, really make sure that opportunities go to public schools first. That's really, really important. The second part is, we really have to have a conversation on what is the future vision for affordable housing using our public lands for our USD. It is really important if we as a district will either partner up with non-profit developers to develop this out, right? And really take in, put some proposal requests out there to developers that will help us continue to build forth, that will provide housing for our classifieds, our para-educators, as well as our teachers.
Yes.
and school communities, right?
That's right.
We really have to come up with a vision plan for our district. Right now, we don't have that.
Mm.
And so the past, what Mike and I have both are wrestling with is past practice
Mm.
of the district is to kind of do this quick deal
Yeah.
where, you know, before you know it, you're forced to make a vote on something. And Mike has really been calling that to question. And what it really means is we have to create, you know, I like the concept. We have to create a people's vision, a
Mm-hmm.
people's budget, a people's housing vision in regards to how OUSD can support the community,
Mm.
support the parents, the families, with affordable housing. We don't have a vision plan right now.
Mm.
And so really, you know, when to get with Mike, get with other board members, get with the community, get with Carol Fife, get with, you know, all of our community members who are doing the housing work so we can actually craft a housing program, a policy for OUSD if we are using public lands and not just to give it away. Because right now, there isn't any particular, we're trying to figure it out as we go. And the district, or, you know, our district is getting pushback by myself, by Mike, to say this is not the proper process. We need to do it a different way. What we need to do is create a housing vision, a housing plan, so we have a document to use to move us forward. So that's really, really important. And that's, you know, it ties into, you know, City of Oakland people's budget. Shout out to all the folks who went to
Yeah.
the, you know, microphones and was like, hell no, we're not going to take this. We need to redirect funds for our communities. We need that type of energy and push. And I'm sure we're going to be reaching out to the community to really ask for that. Like, we have to redirect these funds towards our school communities, to our most vulnerable. And part of the reparations, and I'll get off real quick, part of the reparations resolution was to create an emergency fund to support and help parents who have some challenges from transitioning from place to place, or emergency rent, or create an index to make sure that we are spending money that actually goes towards the
That's
students.
right.
Just for our Black students alone, being 24% of the district, they're not receiving 24%, a quarter of the funds. And so we really are trying to make sure that OUSD moves, pivots into a direction that shows a practice of racial and social justice, social equity, to invest in our communities instead of closing the schools.
That's right. That's right. And you know, I think that that's critical to what you're saying, because like we use terms like community engagement as part of the system, right? But what I hear you talking about is organizing. Like, we need to be talking and organizing our community. And I really appreciate you saying that, because a while back, you know, I had gone to a meeting with a you know, OUSD director. And when I asked that question, as they were newly elected, like, what will you do? What is your commitment to organizing us? Like, you have this room full of parents and community members right now who are ready to do the work. What are you going to do? The answer I received was, I need you to go talk to other directors. And I was like,
Wow.
I don't think you heard my question, right? So like,
Right.
I think that that's a critical piece, is then that means I got some organizations for you. I got housing organizations for you that y'all can talk to, right?
Right.
I got some
Yeah.
workers' rights organizations that y'all need to
Yes.
talk to.
Yes.
Like, we got that. We need to make these connections, and we
Right.
need the people of Oakland to understand that OUSD, yes, it is about educating our students. And yes, it is
Uh-huh.
about that part of our future, investment in our future. And yes, that's an investment into our community. But there are pieces to this that are directly tied, that you might not have kids, but you better know this is going to impact your life, right? Because it's going to
Right.
impact our communities, and it's going to decimate our communities even more than what it is right now. So I really appreciate you bringing up the paraprofessionals, because that is the working class component to OUSD. And if people don't
Right.
understand that, like, right, because
That's right. That's real talk.
they are getting paid at those working class levels,
Thank
y'all.
you.
And like, what does that
Thank
really
you.
look like for our communities? They're they are from our communities. Those
Mhm.
aren't people coming down from the hills to work in this paraprofessional jobs. These are people from the
Correct.
flatlands who are
Correct.
working there. So and are from Oakland, right? And I believe the majority of those paraprofessionals are BIPOC, working class
Uh-huh.
people from Oakland. So let's get a little bit into, we're coming up on time. So I just want to see if you all can really talk about what do you want people to do? What do they need to do? How can they hop on board? Where are some of the talking points? How they can make the phone call. We'll add it to, our notes in any of our posts so that folks can follow that as well, but that they should know how they can get involved, how they could talk to you, how they need to call their district directors and all of the things. So let's get organized. Let's get this going.
So I'm gonna jump right in. So I just want to say, kind of based on this conversation, the one caution is I want us to be careful because OUSD is not going to solve
That's
all of the
true.
problems of poverty
That's
that
right.
are cases. And when it comes down to it in Oakland now, where we have houses going for $1 million in most of the city, OUSD will not be able to solve
No,
the housing problem even for half. And a lot of these need to be
right.
state or even federal solutions. So I be careful. It's for me, it's exciting. I have a seat at the table for real now. I'd love to use it to solve everything, but I just want to just caution us a little bit. But we do now have a lot of budget dollars, a lot of extra dollars coming in, and $800 million in our new
Mm,
facilities bond. And so there are a couple of things that I want everyone to do. First, we need to get engaged. Rector Williams and I need your help in making sure that the values and the equity that we all believe in are reflected in the budget and the work of
mm,
the school board going forward. For example, Director Williams District, they are long overdue, some of those facilities dollars, starting
I'm
with rebuilding
saying that
McClymonds High
water
School, which
issue,
should be this. The water issue, the chemical leak, and they were promised that
and
8
this
years
is an
ago in the
environmental
last
justice
facilities bond.
issue, y'all,
Yes. And so we need help
right?
on making that happen. We need your help so it's not just we're sitting up there. We need this to be the inside outside strategy that many of us have
Right.
talked about for a long time. So on Wednesday, there is going to be a vote on the budget, a vote on the new strategic plan, which we didn't talk about,
Mm,
but I'm really excited about because it highlights some of what we've been talking about in the resolution for
mm.
reparations for Black students. And there one mention of charter schools or school closures in the entire document. Um, we also, though, have a final vote on these two
75
75-year
years?
leases. And 75-year leases.
What
Yes,
the
final vote on Wednesday for
what the
Quincy
fuck?
and Edward
75
Chan.
years. We're about to lock
That
this in for 75
that's
years.
don't and I would have spoken about it long before the agenda was released on Sunday, giving the community 72 hours notice. But I had a lot of pressure from a lot of folks not to say anything about it because it was discussed in closed session. So yes, in 2 days, there's going to be a final vote on two 75-year leases for our public property. One of the leases pays $3,000 a month, and the other pays $4,000 a month.
That's
We are
like
giving
less than
this
people's
away
rent, y'all. And they're about to make millions off of these
for a one.
properties.
So what I need everyone to do is attend the school board meeting via Zoom Wednesday at 6 o'clock. If you go on the OUSD website ahead of time, you can fill out an
Yes.
e-comment now. And everyone, I'm going to start putting
Thank
it on
you.
social media today. I need everyone to contact their school board directors, all of the school board directors, and register your opposition to these two 75-year leases. And it's first name dot last name at OUSD.org. And we still have the ability to stop this. if the board votes for these leases, the fight has
Mm-hmm.
only just begun. I know projects inside and out. I've been fighting these exact
Mm-hmm.
projects for 5 years. One more thing, in one of these deals for this Tilden CDC
Mm-hmm.
at $3,000 a month, there was only bid
How
for the
many?
RFP. One. And Edward Shands, I heard, had 5 or 6. And so what they did is, since one company was
They're
the
like,
only one to
let's
build
give
on
it to them.
to bid on Tilden, they,
Yeah.
and they are planning to build at Edward Shands 68 units, maybe more, and at Tilden CDC 20 townhouses. And for this, the district is going to receive a combined $7,000 a
That's
month.
that
So
is like blowing my mind right now. So
this, this is why I elected to the school board, is to finally put a
I
stake through
appreciate
the
that.
heart of this beast. And so this is what's been going on for a long time, but we have the opportunity to stop it,
Right.
and stop it once and for all. So this is the final battle. There won't be more of these coming forward in the future, but we need folks to engage on Wednesday. We need our
Mm,
union partners to engage. They're trying to sell this as workforce housing. They're trying to sell one of these projects as, oh, we're going to provide space for the Black cultural zone. Highly offensive, when I know that's not where the community is. And so we need everyone to stand up and say, we're not going to accept this okey doke anymore. And then in August, the ENA for the East 12 parcel expires, and we got
got
another
it.
bite at that apple. So once we have this, then we are going to reacquire that property for OUSD, and that's where we build additional housing and a CTE center and a joint venture
Got it.
between OUSD and the city. And we stop
Got it.
madness
Van,
once and
could you
for
tell
all.
us who on the board we need to be focusing our attention on, if you can? And also, I know how touchy that gets. I know how touchy that gets. I can name a few folks myself that I think
Yeah.
we need to focus our attention on. But we did this before, you all. Folks came out and really supported Black Organizing Project to get the police out of the school system, and we showed up at people's houses, and we could do it again. I know that this is a quick turnaround for this on Wednesday. I don't know the possibility of those things. I won't say that, but I will say that this is, somebody in the chat wrote, need your help equals being engaged, participating in meetings, stating on the record your opposition, and post your e-comments. So we got to know, who are these directors? Who do people need to be calling so that they know the school districts are the same as the city districts. So maybe we could have a little breakdown of like who's on the board right now and who do we need to focus some attention on. Give it extra love.
Yeah, yeah. So I think both of these uh, properties are in different districts. One is in District 5,
Mm-hmm.
and one, no, what are the districts?
6?
Let me hear it, Mike.
I'm sorry,
6
6
and
and
4.
4. So he is in District 4. Edward Shands is in District
Okay.
6.
Which is Shanti and Gary
Yee.
Yee.
Mm-hmm. So District 4,
Okay.
Gary Yee and Shanti Gonzalez
Yeah,
in District 6.
correct, correct. And I think that it's going to be real critical to have those conversations with those particular directors in regards to that. And I think that we again we the way this makeup of the board is, it's really kind of helter skelter. There's a couple of us that are really advocating for community driven process, Mike and myself. And then there are some that are in between. I think Director Davis came on really wanting to engage a process, but it kind of just varies with him. And we have Gary, Shanti, Amy have all are previous board members, so they really have had a longer understanding of where they want to go. And it hasn't necessarily shown that it's for a community. It's more about keeping the institution intact.
Mm.
And then, I think Cliff is trying to find his way as well. So we're kind of
That's a
like
generous way to say that, VanCedric. That last statement.
right. So I think we're still trying to build some
I see
relationships and
that
try to
olive.
get
I
a
see that olive branch. I see it. I see you. I see what you're trying to do. And I really appreciate you both coming on today to talk about that. Again, everybody get on that OUSD. I see you. I see you both.
Send, send an
Yeah.
send an email to everyone, and the
Yeah.
email can go to all of us. Now, if and I can talk about extra love offline, but 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 also, but, but the thing to remember though is the three school board members who were on the board previously have all endorsed these plans in the
Right.
past and pushed it to this point. So we know
Right.
where they have stood. But I think it's a new day in Oakland. We
Right.
saw that with the city council. I think now I'm not encouraging extra love on myself, but I think in the community we need to
Yes.
get in the habit of engaging. I think I should be contacted also. I think Director Williams should get emails also. We need to weigh in and tell our elected officials what we want them to do. And we can't let them off the
Right.
hook by not doing that. And that is the most, so I saw one of the comments, it
Right.
is most important that you engage. So if you can send an email, great. If you can do an e-comment, great. That's on the record. If you can participate in the meeting, great. If you got a relationship with one of the directors, jam them up. This is really important. A 75-year lease will be decided on Wednesday. It's up to us
Got
to
it.
do
Got it.
something to stop
I
it.
also real quick, I also want to say that for me, it's really important to have the community organizations that will be affected by this, right? I think there is some, it's really important to have that voice. I'm fighting battles in District 3, but in District 6, the community orgs that are there, if they're the Black Cultural Zone, if there are other organizations that want to really understand how this is going to affect them, we need to hear that voice. It is so important because I am an advocate for affordable housing. I am trying to find a way to make sure our classifieds and paras, get a chance to get a decent house, a decent living arrangement without always, having to be under the uncertainty of being put out or being put on the
Right.
street. So I'm really about that. And I think our community orgs in those neighborhoods really have to step up and say, hey, enough is enough. This is what we want. This is what we want.
That's
And
right.
they have to really be about it.
That's right.
So
That's right.
that's going to be important.
Well,
That's going to be
I
important.
think this is a great start for us to be building those spaces between education and other community organizations that are more issue based. And I think we can continue to build on that. Let's continue to build this relationship, build on these conversations. Hit me up because we got those orgs that are doing that work in Oakland Rising's collaborative. So let's get that going and let's make it happen. And yes, everything counts. So yes, hit up VanCedric, hit up Mike, because when they show up to the meeting, they can be like, yo, here's my stack of emails in support or, against this. I'm coming with these word of the people behind me. It's not just Mike, it's not just VanCedric, but that they're walking in the door armed with that. So again, I appreciate you both for the work that you're doing and the tireless nights. Personally, I know it affects you all because it gets into your sleep, right? Because these meetings go long. But I really like to hear people on those calls, like tell the directors directly with their voice, right? To be able to say to them, this is what we want. And appreciate that. And that folks should know it's not just families and students who vote on board of directors for the school district. It's all of us. Oh, and Van got kicked off. But so I'm just going to close us out. Thank you so much, Mike. I really appreciate you. I hope that you're going to move through your day knowing that you've got some support. I really appreciate whoever Kaiser Mama one is. They've been dropping all kinds of knowledge on the chat and support. So appreciate you all. Thank you. Join us tomorrow. We're going to have a special Tuesday lunch special with Cap Brooks. We're adding an additional IG live so we could talk about the city budget and what we need to look forward to defunding the police and how we continue to refund to the community. So on our city budget as well. So thank you so much. Hope you have a great day. Bye, Mike. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you
Thank
all
you.
for joining.